Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Advance Your Art podcast. I'm your host, Yuri Cataldo. I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday season, that your 2017 is going well. There has been a little bit of break in this podcast for a couple of weeks, mostly because I got really sick a couple of weeks ago for the first time in a while, and rather than sounding like Tom Waits on death's door, I felt it was best to just hold off. So for today, I actually had another interview scheduled, planned, and recorded. However, my computer decided to delete it. And while I'm hunting for that file and also reaching out to that person again to re-record the episode, I wanted to do a in-between episode so that we would still have something to talk about. In 2017, I am focusing more on a larger range of guests for the podcast, doing a bit more writing, and reaching out more to you, the audience, to find out what you're most interested in. So if you have a moment, feel free to drop me a line anytime, Yuri@advanceyourart.com. Let me know what you want to hear more, if there's guests that you're interested in, or subjects that you want to cover and talk about. I spend a lot of time reading and going to conferences and workshops because I am obsessed with learning. So if there's a way that I can give out some of that knowledge and it helps you, please let me know. Today I want to talk about a bit of writing I did in 2016 that got a bit of traction, and it's called, basically the theme of it is what I do when my professional life falls apart. I have been someone who has failed multiple times in multiple areas, and I see everything that I do as a journey. So I do call it failure, and there's some times when that just beats me down, and I pick myself up, dust myself off again, and figure out what it is I learned, and then try for the next thing. And there are some times where it's easier than others. This last time, it was really difficult, and I battled the depression and my usual spinning thoughts, and it wasn't fun at all. The last time that really, truly happened to me, and if you don't know, I started a bottled water company in 2015 called Indigo H2O. I started it in 2012. It's still early in the morning, and I haven't had all my coffee yet. I was kicked out of business by the state of Indiana in 2015, politicked, if you will. Over the course of 3 years, I won 3 international awards, was featured in multiple news stories, dozens of them, and in multiple bags at the award shows. And the last time I got really good at doing PR pushes. And the last one I did was in 2015 in February. I was in the Oscar gift bags, and I had won an award for the best tasting water in the world exact same weekend. So for 2 weeks, I was in a ton of press. Sales skyrocketed. Things were going well. There were people came out of the woodwork who wanted to buy my water. And then suddenly I got this stupid email from the state of Indiana, not even from my professional email, but from the college email I was working at, about how they changed their mind and basically were kicking me out. So I was threatened to be sued. They threatened to take me to court, fine me, and close the company if I didn't comply with whatever new regulations they thought were important. So I had to hire a beverage attorney, and after looking at the case and talking with everybody involved, he turned to me and said, "Yuri, I don't know what you did, but you pissed somebody off." So you have 2 options right now. We can fight this because there's no real reason why they're doing this. They've got more money than you, infinitely, and more time and resources. Or you could close the company and move on. So rather than fight an uphill battle, I chose to close the company and move on. Needless to say, I felt awful, defeated, worthless. There was a lot of synonyms I can use to describe how terrible that felt. To have this company that I had worked so hard and so long to build up, only to have it shut down because some bureaucrat somewhere decided that I didn't fit in whatever his mold of regulations was, and that they needed to then kick me out. Not only did they do that, but I closed the company in the spring. The website was still up in October when I had even moved out of the state. They still threatened to sue me because the website was still up. So be careful, because the state of Indiana not only hates small businesses and wants to kick you out of the state, but once you're out of the state, they also want to try to sue you again just because they don't understand how technology works. There have been other times in my life where my contracts for things I was working on were ended on the last day because of some stupid reason. And I call it stupid because it's not a reason that I agree with. And I know that the people on the other end had their reasons and thought it made sense to them, but it didn't make sense to me. And being on the other side, being that person who is told, yeah, we changed our mind, we don't really feel like renewing your contract right now, even though it's the last day, it's a terrible feeling. It makes you feel broken. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. Because why would somebody cancel on you if you are doing the good work that they say you are? Why would they cancel? This has happened to me multiple times through multiple careers that I have tried. And what usually happens is shortly after I start going into a little bit of depression, I stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning, pacing back and forth, thinking about how I'm going to lose everything, and my mind just starts spinning. But rather than talk about the bad stuff that happens in those moments, I want to talk about the few things that I do that help me move on and continue on to something bigger and better. There are a lot of people who do write about this, so I recommend, if you're going through something like this right now, to start Googling that and speaking with somebody. Because out of all of these things that I do, and I didn't mention that I actually reach out to people and I talk with them, being able to have someone who will listen to you definitely helps. So the first thing is breathe. So I know this sounds obvious, but it's always a great thing to remember that actually, even if you're feeling great, to breathe slowly and deeply. Over the summer, I took a couple of extra workshops, and part of it was how to deal with stress and stressful situations. And I was put in some very stressful situations. And even though you know they're fake, even though you know that ultimately nothing bad is going to happen to you, your body still freaks out to those. And the number one thing that we were taught and repeated over and over and over again was that you have to control your breathing, no matter what. Slow down your breathing, breathe deeply and slowly, and you will control your body. And you will control how your body handles stress. There's actually a great breathing technique if you're interested, Wim Hof, and it's more dedicated toward cold and being able to deal with cold situations. But same kind of thing, learning how to breathe slowly and deeply when you then put yourself in stressful situations will help you learn how to control yourself and calm down. The second thing, allow yourself to feel. So someone much smarter than myself told me very recently, I'm sorry that you're going through this, Yuri, but you have to deal with your feelings. You can't shortcut that. You're either going to feel it now or you're going to feel it later. So make up your mind. And honestly, as much as that irritated me at the moment, I knew that he was right. Because you're going to have to deal with it sooner rather than later. So you can push down all of those emotions, that anger, resentment, frustration, fear, shame, helplessness, and try to push it off, but it's going to come out at some point. So you might as well deal with it now and go through it. What helps me personally is a journal. So I jot down my feelings, what I'm thinking, and sometimes I just jot them down and I throw them away because I don't want to go back and review them. Sometimes I keep it, but it helps to go through that, understand what it is that you're feeling, and keep moving on. Third thing I do, one thing a day. And I heard this from James Altucher. I recommend you look up his writings because his have definitely helped me, and he's someone who has definitely gone through difficult times and came out positively on the other side. Self-pity definitely was my enemy. So there were many times when I would just sit on the couch and stew and feel sorry for myself and then watch TV. And then I would feel bad because I got nothing done. All I did was watch TV. It was this endless cycle. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't sleep very well. I wouldn't read. I was just sit on the couch, watch TV, or stare at nothing. So I had to at least do one thing a day. It's probably because I am an overachiever and I feel like I need to get something going. So one thing a day, and I would set the bar really low. For me, my one thing a day would include go for a walk, go out to lunch with a friend, write someone a thank you note, take a shower, and get dressed up. I love wearing collared shirts and suits. I would just spend extra time taking a nice long shower and then putting on a suit for no particular reason. I would go to a networking event. I would just start exercising again. Email an old friend, see how they were doing. Recently, I got into rowing over the summer. And through a couple of difficult times that happened recently, I would just get up and reach out to people and ask if I could row. Exercising and kind of getting out of your routine helped me a great deal. But create your own list of things that you think are motivating you. But the key thing to do is just one thing a day. So start with 1, then go to 2, then go to 3. But the key is to gradually build up with this. The fourth thing I would do is to let go of anger. There is a quote by Seneca that helped me a lot, actually, when I was going through a very difficult time in my late 20s, and that's when I first came across Stoicism. But the quote is, "Anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than anything on which it is poured." And that, when I read that the first time, kind of rocked me to the core, because I was being very resentful toward a lot of people for things, and it was eating me up inside. So as part of recognizing your emotions is learning how to let go of anger. Best way to think of it is this. The people on the other side of that decision, they have to eat too. They have to live their lives and do the best they can. And sometimes it really sucks, and sometimes they're completely wrong. But they are just trying to survive. If you try to be more empathetic and put yourself in their shoes, it definitely helps with letting go of anger. A fifth thing I would do is journal. So that's something I've started doing recently. I do not consider myself that great of a writer, but writing down my thoughts has helped me in multiple ways. If nothing else, I get to see where my head is throughout the years. I keep multiple notebooks and organize them. If I'm going to workshops, if I'm doing something else, I write it all down. Writing in my journal has helped me clear my head, express my feelings, keep track of my progress, see where I'm going for. It's in a way, it's my own form of therapy and creative expression. So when I'm stuck and don't know what to do, oftentimes I'll just pull out a journal and just start writing down what it is, and it often helps me go on to the next thing. So my journal isn't anything spectacular. It's actually really cheap. I recommend that you buy something cheap in the beginning. I know personally for me, when I have had the expensive ones, I felt like they were too nice for me to write in unless I had something brilliant to say. So particularly at this moment, you're not feeling well, it is not a time to critique yourself and to critique what you are putting in a journal. So 99 cents at the dollar store type of journal is what I buy, and they are fantastic. Another thing I do when I feel like I'm ready to start talking more people and to get things over is I reach out to people that I know or people that I really would like to know, and I invite them to lunch or invite them to coffee. The thing I realized early on is that moment where something bad happens to you and your mind is spinning and you have no idea what to do, that is not a good time to reach out to somebody for coffee just to have a normal conversation with them. And I'll tell you why. When I did that, in the last couple of times this has happened to me, I basically tried to lean on them and get them to tell me what I was good at and what I should do next, which is a terrible idea because they don't know. They don't know me. They don't know what I'm thinking. They don't know what I want to do next. They don't really know what I'm very good at or what I've been working on. They only know what I have told them. So